January 2011 started with a man from the tri-state becoming one of the most powerful people in Washington. Westchester Representative John Boehner, originally from Reading, was sworn in as Speaker of the House. Also sworn in, John Kasich as Ohio's newest governor. He got the ball rolling on a controversial piece of legislation commonly called Senate Bill 5, which, while a statewide issue, had local implications. SB 5 placed limits on collective bargaining for public employees. Soon after it was passed, though, union members collected enough signatures to put it on the November ballot. They rallied enough opposition to overturn it. The measure drew enough Democrats to the polls in Cincinnati to affect the race for city council. 4 candidates garnered enough support to unseat 4 incumbents, putting a majority of streetcar supporters in City Hall. The streetcar project also survived a second challenge at the ballot box, and while it missed out on state funding, it did receive federal funds. By the end of the year, the route was settled and the signs were installed showing where it would run. Construction has yet to start. 2011 was the year the first tenants, both residential and commercial, moved into the banks, and the parking garage for the second phase was completed as work progressed on the new Riverfront Park. Ground was broken and progress made on Cincinnati's Horseshoe Casino at the former Broadway Commons lot. The ribbon was cut on the city's tallest building, the Great American Tower, new home of Great American Insurance. The man who started that company and one of the world's wealthiest, Carl Lindner Jr., died in October at age 92. After years of legal wrangling and negotiations, the Tri-State won a NASCAR race. The race at the Kentucky Speedway brought the cars and the haulers and the fans to the area, but was marred by traffic problems on I-71. After 12 years in the position, Cincinnati Police Chief Tom Stryker retired, and the city hired James Craig as his replacement. Within 2 weeks of Craig's swearing in, officers were involved in several violent struggles with suspects. One of them landed in the hospital. 16-year-old Devon Mullins, was killed on Fountain Square. The Tri-State lost an officer in the line of duty. Warren County Sheriff's Deputy Sergeant Brian Dooley was killed while trying to stop a stolen car. Marcus Israel was convicted of felony murder. A Fairfield woman, Caitlin Markham, disappeared in August without a trace. Despite several searches, there have been no credible leads on her whereabouts. 2011 was hot in the Tri-State, with 17 straight days where the thermometer climbed above 90. It was a wet year, too, the wettest on record, with nearly 72 inches of rain and snow. All of that moisture flooded low-lying areas along the Ohio River and forced the closure of parks and levees. The water was high when Jeff Ruby's waterfront restaurant broke loose from its moorings and nearly collided with the Clay-Wade-Bailey Bridge. George Clooney spent time in the Tri-State filming part of his movie, The Ides of March, in Oxford, at Xavier, in Northside, and downtown, attracting attention wherever the crew went. Xavier University also hosted the annual Crosstown Shootout, but it turned into chaos at the Cintas when a fight broke out between some of the Musketeers and the UC Bearcats at the end of the game. There were suspensions and, eventually, apologies. President Obama used the Brent Spence Bridge as a backdrop for a speech promoting a jobs bill he said would repair the nation's infrastructure and put people back to work. Unemployment was high in Cincinnati at the start of 2011, 9.4%. Economic disparity inspired protests on Wall Street and in Cincinnati with the Occupy movement. Local demonstrators started with hundreds of people marching through downtown, some of them finally setting up camp in Pyatt Park. But after a few weeks and several nights of citations, police removed the occupants with multiple rounds of arrests. Those protesters ended the year fighting in court, which is where some of the biggest stories of 2011 happened. The president of a city employee union, Code, was indicted on federal fraud charges. Diana Fry eventually pled guilty to stealing union funds before crashing her car on the west side. In court for the third time, Ryan Widmer. He was convicted in 2009 of killing his wife. That conviction was thrown out on juror misconduct. The second trial in 2010 ended with a hung jury. The third time he was convicted and sentenced to 15 years to life. But it was a different trial in Warren County that got the most attention in 2011. A Mason High School teacher accused of having sex with 5 of her students. It was the testimony of those students that had the Tri-State talking. She was convicted of sexual battery and providing alcohol to minors and sentenced to 4 years, but she was eligible for parole as of April 2012.